I failed at the first 5 businesses I had because I had no mentorship. And a CPA can provide some of that mentorship that you need. Not all of it. They're busy, they got their own thing. But in that tax arena right there, they can really give you a lot of insight if you rely on that. And we charge $500 for a tax return with a Schedule C business.
Welcome, everybody. This is Andrea Gordon, your host on Realizations, the podcast about everything real estate. Today, I'm really happy. I have Nancy Benet here with me today, and she runs a CPA firm that handles a lot of work for realtors, real estate investors, real estate brokerages. She's based out of Florida, but she works all over the country. And I'm so happy to have you here because I think this is a really important subject for realtors. I started this podcast because I got really pissed off about the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits because I felt like it was incredibly disrespectful of realtors. And I could be angry for years or I could do something positive. And what I saw as positive was educating the American public and other realtors and other people that are interested in real estate about real estate and how it's practiced and the different kinds of people that we come in contact with every day of our lives. It's a very complicated business and your work is part of it. So welcome to the show, Nancy. And without further ado, hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be on your show. I'm excited to talk to your listeners and talk about real estate. It's one of my favorite subjects.
There you go. One of the things that I'm always talking to people about, because I've been a realtor now for 28 years, and I've been therefore through 4 economic downturns. And the first economic downturn, I got caught with my pants down, unable to pay for anything, really in a bad way. By the second time, I had already found myself a CPA, a business manager, a financial planner, and all of it, because I realized that I wasn't going to make it in a business that was commission based unless I had really sharp people around me to help me to manage my money. So, what are the main things that you would tell realtors around handling money and how to proceed to build financial life for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. Commission based is harder, and building a business takes time. I think people are just looking for a quick fix. So don't look
Mhm.
at it that way. Look at it as more a long-term obligation or long-term career. Business is a marathon. It is not a sprint by any stretch of the imagination. And it does go up and come down and go up and come down. And you have to prepare for those down times. And preparing would mean saving your money, having good investment strategy with your real estate. And if you're a real estate professional, investing in real estate is the best option for you. It's just really a great idea, but you have to buy right. Don't get yourself in trouble where you're going to, in a downturn, you're going to end up in a lot of negative cash flow situation. You don't want that. Cash flow is king. You have to make sure your cash flow is good. With that said, that is one of my biggest pieces of advice for anybody is to manage your cash flow effectively. Because
And
if you
and
don't
what's
have
involved in
cash, you
that?
will lose everything.
Oh, absolutely. If now, what is involved in managing your cash flow? What would you tell a realtor to do to manage their cash flow in the situation?
It just depends on their own situation, but always have reserves is the first thing.
Hmm.
Always have money put back. You don't have to invest every penny. Investment means like investing some for if there's a downturn and you need to make a mortgage payment. You know what I mean? How much money do you need to have on hand so that if you had to go 6 months with no cash, with no income, how would that work? Would you be able to make it with your expenses? That's a rule of thumb. I like 6 months or 12 months. You need that cash on hand, even if it's in a savings account earning nothing. That is valuable to you because
Hmm.
then if something does happen, you can weather the storm, whether it's a health scare or whatever comes along,
Hmm.
because things do happen in life. And that was a mistake that I made early on, especially when I bought the office complex. It
Hmm.
was a distressed property. It had a lot of rats and it's 9 suites and they all needed rehab. There were no tenants here. And it needed a huge amount of money. And so every bit of money that came into the CPA firm, I was pushing back out into the rehab. And then I was having trouble making payroll
Yeah.
payments. And I realized this is a bad place to be. So I decided I need a new zero. So a new zero is a really big point here. Instead of zero, I've spent all my money down to zero. I need to raise that zero to a new number, which would be 6 months of living expenses, maybe 6 months of expenses in my life to be able to handle if something happens. And so
Right.
I did that, and it actually wasn't as hard as what I thought. I thought it's going to be this giant amount of money that I need to save, but once I really had the intention to save that and put my effort toward it, it happened so fast. I thought it would be a year, and it ended up taking like 90 days or 60
Wow,
days.
that's
It was
fantastic.
very fast. Incredible. And I think
Mhm.
that's part of the power of intention. When you put your mind to something and go all in on it, you can get it done quickly. So save your money and then start investing because
Mhm.
investing is important too. And as a realtor, real estate professional status from a tax point of view is so valuable. You can
Mhm.
have real estate losses with your depreciation and all that that offset your ordinary income, and you get to take all of that. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
So now that you've opened up that can of worms, what are some deductions that realtors forget to take?
Oh, yeah, because most realtors go into business and they don't really understand business, which nobody does when they first get in. And
Mhm.
so they forget things like mileage is a really big deduction. Your MLS fees, all the lockbox things you buy, the signs that you buy, all of that, anything that you have to pay your broker for desk fees, all of that is deductible. Keep up with it. I would have a separate bank account. I actually would form an LLC. In Florida, it has to be under your name I don't know what the laws in California are, but it does, there are rules about how you name that LLC. But a sole member LLC is a really great way to operate. And it allows your tax professional to make an S election later when you are consistently profitable every year. You don't want to do it before that. Don't do it too early, but that LLC gives you the flexibility. So have the LLC with a separate EIN number and then go and get a separate bank account and run all your expenses through that. So it's all in one place and it's easy to
Right.
find every year at tax time.
And what about S corps?
S corps are a great model and we use them all the time. And one of the really big benefits of S corp is that we as tax professionals can make an election for that LLC to be taxed as an S corporation after the year is over. So it's in 26 now. I'm making S elections to be taxed as an S corporation beginning January 1st, 2025 for companies that qualify. To qualify, you have to have an entity type. So that would be a sole member LLC is our recommendation. Because if it's a multi-member LLC, that's automatically a partnership. The sole
Mhm.
member is really a more simple form of business. It allows you to file a separate schedule on your individual income tax return instead of a separate tax return that's really expensive.
Mhm.
Keep it simple, keep it inexpensive. My motto, especially for new business owners. We want you to succeed. We don't want you to spend all your money on tax prep fees, okay? You need to keep that to a minimum as long as possible. But once you're ready, going into an S corp is a huge tax tool because when you're a sole member LLC or a sole proprietorship like that is structured, all of your income is subject to self-employment tax, which is
Mhm.
Social Security and Medicare. As an
Mhm.
employee, your company is withholding those funds plus your federal withholding from your check, matching the Social Security and Medicare, sending it all to the IRS. As a business owner, nobody's doing that for you. And you have to pay both sides of Social Security and Medicare, the employer side and the employee side, and the federal income tax. And if you don't like do something to minimize that, that can get really big really fast because Social Security and Medicare is 15.3% of your total net income. It can be huge. Let's say you made $100,000. That's $15,300. If we make an S election, we take a reasonable salary. Reasonable is open to interpretation. It
Mhm.
has to be reasonable for the IRS to accept it. But you take a reasonable salary that's subject to that 15.3%, and the rest of your ordinary income is not subject to self-employment tax. So you're saving 15.3% on the rest. And so if that's a
Wow.
100,000 more or 200,000 more, that's a huge benefit to you.
Wow, that's really interesting. Now, what would you say to someone who is new in the business and just starting out? Do they need a CPA or can they do TurboTax? Can they tell me a little bit about what you think the trajectory of somebody working with financial professionals is?
I think in the beginning, when you have a new business, you really should contact a CPA. And you don't need a lot of services from that CPA. Don't let them talk you into the S election. Don't let them talk you into a monthly service package. You don't need that. You just need annual tax prep because what they can do is ask the right questions and make sure you're not missing deductions and make recommendations for you and guide you along your way in business because you need that. I think it's really important to have somebody that knows what they're doing. I failed at the first five businesses I had because I had no mentorship. And a
Mhm.
CPA can provide some of that mentorship that you need. Not all of it. They're busy, they got their own thing. But in that tax arena right there, they can really give you a lot of insight if you rely on them. And we charge $500 for a tax return with a Schedule C business. That's pretty minimal and to
Yeah.
get the coaching that you get with that comes with that.
That's phenomenal. You have no
Yeah.
idea what they charge around here in
Yeah,
Berkeley,
I know it's a lot more in
California.
California. And y'all have state taxes. We don't have
Yeah.
state. So,
Yeah.
that's without a state, but still, it's
Yeah.
very minimal investment to get a lot of knowledge.
Right. Now, someone like me, I have five people that work for me and I have a bookkeeper
Yeah,
and
you need that.
I'm paying my taxes several times a year, all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. But it took me a long time to figure all that stuff out and I made mistakes along the way and I actually got audited because
Ooh.
I was making, oh yeah, it was bad. And that's how I ended up with all the financial professionals. In the middle of my not doing well, I also got audited. So it was just a lot of fun. But here, those kinds of services can be very expensive. Like I probably pay somewhere around $30,000 a year for my professionals that I work with, which I consider to be fine because they're doing a really good job and keeping me out of trouble and making sure that I have retirement savings and things are great. But what would you say beyond a CPA, a real estate agent should have for other financial professionals when they're in the middle of their career? Not like me, who's been around forever, but somebody who's probably been in the business for 5 to 7 years and is doing okay.
Yeah, and they're a realtor, not a broker, because there's a big
Right.
difference. The
Oh,
broker
yeah.
has a lot more responsibility and a lot more people to deal with and things like that. So you as a
Right.
broker need a lot more. But certainly a real estate agent is going to need the CPA. They need probably a financial planner or another investment strategy. I do not personally invest in the stock market. I've invested in real estate. I invest in business because those are my places where
You're
I feel
smart.
comfortable.
You should be looking at my tax portfolio or my stock portfolio right about now.
Oh, what is
Last
it?
few days. Woo. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's so volatile, and I don't feel like I have any control of that. But I do
Mhm.
have control of my businesses and my real estate investments. And I think that's really important. There's so much you can do with that. And as real estate professionals, again, I just think if you get with a good broker and really follow their advice and get them to help you, you can do so well in real estate.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I've stayed in the profession all this time. So, question I have for you, how did you get into this business of being a CPA? I know that you're a real estate investor now, but why become a CPA? How did that work out?
That's really a funny question because I wanted to be a CPA since I was about 10 years old. I had no idea what that was. But
Oh,
my
my goodness.
parents, who were really poor, my parents were so poor. I can't tell you how many times my dad said, money doesn't grow on trees and just turn off the lights. It was very lack mentality. And their
Oh,
friend was a CPA and they were very social. And they had this guy, and he and his family had this really beautiful, nice life. And I just looked at him and I was like, that's what I want. I want that nice life. But I equated it to the CPA. And so I did all the things that you do to be a CPA. I got good grades and I went to college and I got a good education so I could get a good job. But then I got the good job and I hated it. I hated it so much I couldn't stand it. And I got my CPA license and I'm like, what am I doing here? This is miserable for me. I don't like it. But that's my entrepreneur brain.
mm,
Entrepreneurs that at heart just can't work for somebody else.
yeah, I'm
And
that
but
person too.
yeah, you have that. And so you just can't. I equated that with the CPA not being the right fit.
Mm.
So I quit. I just dumped all of my pre-planned career goals in favor of being a stay-at-home mom and starting a business with my husband.
Oh, wow.
But there was no alignment there. And it was it was not really my place where I was supposed to be. And we failed 5 times.
And you stayed together. You must really love one another.
No, we ended up divorced. When I was
Sorry.
45, I ended up divorced with four
Mhm.
small children,
Oh my God.
no job, no income, $100 a week in child support, and $650,000 in debt from the previous business failures. And
Oh my God.
yeah, and
You are amazing.
no, not really, because I did what I did out of necessity. And I think that's the mother of invention. When you're
Yeah.
backed into a corner, you don't have any choices. You
Right.
just do what you have to do. I could have committed suicide or something, but you can't when
No.
you have kids. And so that was a bleak time, but I would say that it's probably one of the most important times of my life that formed who I am. I
Mm-hmm.
found my confidence. I found my ability. I found myself through that process. And so don't be afraid to do hard things, I guess is
Hmm.
my message from that.
Oh yeah.
And I went under contract to buy somebody else's accounting tax practice and signed a 3-year lease during all of this. And the day after I signed the lease, he backed out and gave the business to his daughter. I know. Your face is funny. So shocking. It is shocking, but it was really good. I was forced to start figuring out what works, and it was a recession. There were no jobs, there were no clients. So I started marketing to people who had federal tax liens in the state of Florida. We started with our county because it's all a public record here. And then we expanded to the next counties and the next county. And it actually worked. And it was not our first iteration of trying things. But when we hit that one, it worked. And that's how we built. And we don't do that anymore, but it was the starting point. And just get creative when you're backed in a corner. Get creative, figure it out. Think of other ways. Open your mind because there's a lot of other unknown possibilities available
Mm-hmm.
to you that your small brain can't think of. Not because you're not smart, but because we're limited in our view sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a big supporter of the Berkeley Humane Society. And
Mhm.
a few years ago, they were up against a wall with something that they needed to do. And I was just bound and determined to raise money for them.
Oh,
And I figured something out, which is that in Oakland, which is a city next to Berkeley where I live, they have a tax. If you have a parcel of land that is not being developed, and you are owning it. It could be a parcel of land that's not, you can't develop it. It could be a parcel of land that's not suitable for building, what have you. But people inherit these things all the time.
mhm.
Like you, I went to public records through my title company. I found all of the people that had these parcels of land that they were paying $5,000 a year on, whether they were using them or not. And I wrote a letter to all of them saying, this is what I'm trying to do. I found this company called Realty Gift Fund because the Berkeley Humane doesn't want a bunch of land. What they want is money. So Realty Gift Fund, basically like Cars for Kids or any of those places, it takes the information, and then when the property sells, it then passes the money along to the charitable organization. So I raised $400,000 in the space of 2.5 months for the Berkeley Humane by doing that. And I had never thought like that before, but I thought, what the hell? I might as well.
That is so awesome. That
Yeah.
is so amazing, Andrea. Thank you. We love animals. We have fur accountants, dogs in our office.
Yeah, I have one sitting right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very proud of that. Unfortunately, I sold so many that that is not, it's hard to find more of them right now to do because I would love to do it again. But it was like it was all in the news because they were talking about this parcel tax that had just come up and it had just been implemented, that it was going to be like that forever. And so all these people jumped on my letter. It was amazing.
That's wonderful. See,
Yeah.
that is the perfect example of thinking outside the box and looking for
Yeah.
a different view or perspective of how you can help and how you can do something. We tend to be locked into our small view, worldview. But if we open that up and talk to other people and come up with new ideas, doors open.
Exactly. Exactly. You are an absolute love. I am so happy to have met you. If I ever go your way to Florida, I'll look you up because you're obviously one of the heart and soul people, and I truly appreciate that. And I love how you've taken authentic struggles and turn them into positives in your life. And that's a beautiful thing. I'm getting my PhD right now in a subject called transformative studies at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And you're like a casebook example of someone who was able to transform because you opened your mind to what's possible out there. Nancy, if somebody wants to reach you, how do they get a hold of you?
Any of the social media channels at Fix It Accounting or Success Your Way, which is our other brand. We have online classes for newer entrepreneurs about a business mindset and also the practical aspects of building businesses, and a manage your money class, Tame Your Money Monster, because money is
Beautiful.
such a big part of our lives, and we have to get to the emotional root of that, why we do what we do. So we're
Exactly.
out there. We're also doing an everyday CEO series on YouTube. Check that out because it's really a lot of mindset things for business owners.
Very wonderful. So thank you for being on my show. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been delightful.
Take good care. If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.